All right, still here with me is CBS News senior political editor Steve Chaggaris, and also here with us, we're really happy to have Charlie Kirk. He's the founder and executive director of Turning Point USA. He is also the youngest speaker that will be, you spoke already, but will speak at this convention today. We're really glad to have you. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely.
So let me ask you, what we heard yesterday from both Clinton and Manafort is exactly what the campaign has been saying all along about each other for weeks. How effective are their messages?
Not as much, and I'll be honest, I think last night was an opportunity that the GOP kind of lost. I mean, this is the one chance that you have to communicate to the American people without any kind of media interruption. Well, of course, there's going to be punditry and, you know, the talking heads that will add their comments. But I think the Republican Party could have told a different story last night. I don't think it was as effective as it probably could have been. And I was reading all the different social media channels, especially amongst young people. I hope it steps up in these next couple days. I would have expected a little bit more. I'd like to say I was surprised. I don't know if I can say I'm surprised by anything anymore in this campaign.
When you say you're surprised, is it because you wanted to hear more about how this party will make America great again, and less about Hillary Clinton? Or?
I would have liked to see, first and foremost, some of these stereotypes about Republicans start to get shattered.
Yeah.
And this is what I talked about yesterday. I talked about how this presidential field in 2016 that Trump did triumph over was actually the youngest and most diverse presidential field in American history. First Indian American ever to run for president, 2 Latinos, 4 have ever run in American history, 2 of them were this cycle. I would have liked to see more of a celebration of the inclusivity and the leadership that have been able to come into the Republican Party. The youngest Speaker of the House since 1868, the only U.S. Senator under the age of 40 in Tom Cotton. I think it was a little bit too much about talking about issues that I don't think the American people are feeling every day, especially the focus on Benghazi.
I just think it's really interesting. You're going to hear Paul Ryan talk about this inclusiveness. I think that's been one of his issues over the past few years. I do think it's interesting. You mentioned the diversity of the field, and we don't hear enough about what happened in Iowa in the caucuses, where you have 3 of the 4 top candidates that placed in that race, and 2 of them were Latinos, and 1 was an African American. And that's unbelievable.
It's a story that should have been told.
It's a story that was not told. It's a story that no one.
Missed opportunity.
And I always wondered why that was never really touted by the Republican Party any more than it was. Mainly because when have you seen that in the Republican Party? In fact, when have you seen that in the Democratic
Party? Never.
And
so there's only been 2 Latinos ever that have won a caucus or a primary, and their names are Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz.
And so, Charlie, when you see that, and you see what some have called Trump's embrace of white identity politics, whereas in 2012 there was that autopsy report that was produced, and they said, look, for us. For this Republican Party, I don't mean us, me, but I mean the Republican Party, to bring more people into the tent, these are the things we need to do. But it seems right now that that's not happening.
I don't know if the blueprint was followed. And it wasn't because of a lack of trying, because of people like me. And look, I think you can see right here kind of the delegate selection process. You can look at the rise of Donald Trump throughout the last 9 months. It was a crowded field. It went to the person who was the loudest and the person who talked about the most personal issues, and trade and immigration are issues that matter to voters over 65, and that's what defines the GOP electorate.
I also think that blueprint was a long-term blueprint for a general election strategy, right? And what we learned this year is in the Republican primary process, that blueprint doesn't really work right now. I mean, you still have a very, very demographically non-diverse group of people who vote in Republican primaries, and Donald Trump played to that group.
Steve,
I just think short term that worked perfectly for the Republican Party for what they needed. But now to pivot to the general election, and then when you look at 2020, 2024, and future presidential elections, have they set themselves up for what is turning out to be a more diverse population in this country? I think you could ask Reince Priebus and Paul Ryan, and they would say no, they haven't.
It was, and I don't know the answer to this, so you guys will tell me. Was the blueprint or the discussion after 2008, was it the same? Was it we've got to bring more minorities into the party? We've got to accept the fact that the face of the party is going to look different because of the demographics. In other words, are people saying, look, we tried that. We tried it in 08, we tried it in 2012, and it's not working. We need to fall back on what. I don't want to say, but I'm thinking of, go ahead.
I think there's a tale of 2 Republican parties, though, and I really want to make this point. And again, I think it was a missed opportunity. On one sense, we're getting our tails kicked on the national presidential sale. We control more state houses, more state senates, and more governor's mansions than any time in American history. We control both bodies of Congress, and we have all these amazing achievements and accomplishments of a very young and diverse party. Yet on the national presidential stage, we have gotten really run around two cycles, and I hope it doesn't happen again now. And so go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, that's the point that Priebus was making. They woke up after the Romney 2012 election. Remember also that year was the year of, why am I blanking on his name? The
Santorum?
The Senate candidate from Missouri.
Oh, Aiken.
Oh,
Todd
Aiken.
Aiken. Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
Todd Aiken.
Todd
Aiken
Aiken,
and
right?
Murdoch.
And
Yeah.
so the whole point of that was they saw the language that those candidates were using to speak to the general electorate. And Priebus woke up and said, look, we can't speak to people in a way that is not really welcoming to people of other mindsets. They saw Todd Aiken, they saw Mitt Romney, they saw that they just didn't pull it off with diverse populations. And they said, if we're going to win at the top levels moving forward in competitive races, you got to be more diverse. That was Priebus's conclusion. He may very well be right, but in a primary, you didn't need to do that.
Right.
And that's what Donald Trump proved.
And Charlie, let me ask you about young people. Again, we're talking about the face of the Republican Party going forward, looking ahead 4 years, 8 years into the future. A lot more young people are getting politically active. Log cabin Republicans. Is there a concerted effort to go after young people, to bring them into the tent, and also folks that may be a little different profile-wise from the traditional Republican?
I hope so. Our organization, Turning Point USA, we focus on organizing and educating college and high school students around free markets and free people. We stay away from some more of the divisive social issues, abortion and gay marriage, because I think that if you boil it down to a couple issues, I think young people are more, I would say, likely to at least consider a conservative point of view. Lower taxes, keep more of your earnings, better job prospects, and scaling back government a little bit, balancing budgets.
So Charlie, look at this graphic that we just had showing the unfavorables of Donald Trump with young people. So it's not the Republican Party.
That's
it's
correct.
Donald Trump. 75% of
that
millennials.
reflects exactly what we're seeing on the ground. And I will say this, though. A recent poll in that same polling agency said 71% of millennials have a negative perspective of Hillary Clinton.
That's true. They both.
So they both are equally hated.
I would also point out that it's not just millennials.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they're in the high 50s to 60s among all Americans.
Right.
So,
but he can still win. I do want to make that point. There is a path. I think it's narrower than it would have been for other candidates.
And is the idea that if Donald Trump wins, the path is such, and this is what I think Paul Ryan has been saying, which is that it will be easier to push the agenda for the Republican Party through if Donald Trump is the standard bearer, if he's the president of the United States, even though his values are very different than perhaps yours.
Yeah, I would say that's true. And so Paul Ryan has his blueprint of what he wants to push forth. I think he would find a more willing negotiator in Donald Trump than Barack Obama. I would say that for the Paul Ryan vision for America, for the Mitch McConnell vision for America. I think right now it's just complete stonewalling. I do see Donald Trump sitting down and saying, you know what, fine, we can fix Social Security, we can do this, we can do that, more likely than right now the current president.
All right. Charlie Kirk, thank you so much for stopping by. Please come again. We really like talking to you. It was really excellent. Steve Chaggaris, as always, we thank you very much, my friend.